happy you're here today because I'm calling you on Twitter the truth teller, Maya.
Well,
be our truth teller here. Donald Trump, let's do his plan first. I've been reading what you've studied about it. He says he's going to wipe away the debt in 8 years. Doable, Maya?
Not even close, I'm afraid. So the plan that Donald Trump has put forth so far would actually double the debt under the 8-year term that he would be president, where he's saying he would pay off the entire debt. And set aside whether you actually want to pay off the debt. First off, it is what creates treasury markets. It's sort of the backbone of the financial system here. But really what we're talking about is there a plan to balance the budget so that we don't borrow each year. But on top of that, to actually pay down all of the debt in being consistent with all the plans he's laid out to cut taxes very dramatically and not to touch Social Security is just impossible. It's just impossible. He said that he would sell some assets to do it. But keep in mind, you can only sell an asset once, and that means you'd still have these glaring deficits, which would grow the debt back up. So, no, these numbers don't come close to adding up. While I'm glad to hear someone talking about the debt, it's completely at odds with the policies that they've put forth so far.
Well, what would work? What, in your opinion, is necessary in order to actually make a dent in the debt? We know that much of the spending is in the entitlements, and we're not really hearing about Social Security from any of these candidates.
That's exactly right. To fix the fiscal challenges that this country faces, and they are significant, our debt is at record levels right now, and it's projected to grow faster than the economy going forward indefinitely. It's no mystery what it would take. The most important thing is to deal with our aging population and our health care problems, and that's our entitlement programs. Those tend to be the areas that candidates don't like to talk about, and in this campaign in particular, you have Democrats who are talking about expanding these programs, Republicans who are talking about refusing to touch them. Nobody's really come out with a responsible plan to deal with entitlement reform. And on the other side of it, you're going to have to deal with revenues. And instead of talking about tax reform that would be able to generate new revenues, we are talking about massive tax cuts, which would explode the debt even further. So we are taking many, many steps backwards instead of the real discussion about what it would take.
Maya, here's John Hilsenrath from the Wall Street Journal. Go ahead, John.
Maya, Donald Trump has talked a lot about renegotiating deals, renegotiating trade deals. And, of course, as the CEO of a casino business, he renegotiated a lot of debt deals. Can the United States of America renegotiate its debt with its creditors like China and other foreign countries? Is that an option for paying down this debt?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's an interesting question because you kind of have to have a sense of what the debt is. And so the first thing to understand that of the $19 trillion debt that we hear people talking about 1/3 of that is actually what we owe to ourselves in trust funds. So that's the entire debt. A good portion of it's owed to Social Security and other government trust funds. Of the $13 trillion debt that we owe, the portion that's owed to our savers or abroad, a lot of it wouldn't come due within that 8 years. And if you were to renegotiate it, if you were to pay down all that debt, you'd have to pay a premium. So it would actually cost additional trillions to pay it off prematurely. So I don't see us renegotiating our debt deals. I see us renegotiating our budget and looking at what our spending programs are, what our revenue programs are, getting control of how much we borrow each year, and gradually getting control of the debt that way. That would be a way that's workable. I'm not sure that even the goal of paying down the debt is something that's a discussion that's helpful because it's so out of the realm of what's realistic.
Look, we want to move on to Sanders because he's also making all of these promises. Demystify Sanders for us. He's basically saying he wants to raise $1.7 trillion in new taxes. He's also taking on Jeff Immelt, the CEO of General Electric, saying the he's a self-proclaimed socialist. He's doing this op-ed, and he says Bernie Sanders is wrong. GE is not destroying the moral fabric of America. From the column, I love this quote. This is from Jeff Immelt. GE has been in business for 124 years, and we've never been a big hit with socialists. We create wealth and jobs instead of just calling for them in speeches. Maya, your take on Bernie Sanders and his plan.
Okay, well, there's two things. There's the Bernie Sanders plan, and there's whole discussion we've having about the economy. On the Sanders plan, the good thing I will say is that the Sanders campaign has tried to pay for what is unquestionably a massive, massive expansion of government. They're looking at expanding the government by roughly 50% compared to where it has been historically. To their credit, they put forth forth a lot of detailed, specific ways that they would pay for it, all of it raising taxes. A little bit less to their credit, we don't find their numbers add up. So we still think there would be trillions that would be added to the debt. But on top of that, the Sanders campaign has not talked about the debt as an issue at all. And they use so many new revenues. I mean, these tax increases are huge. They couldn't really happen in this political environment. But if they were to, there wouldn't be a penny left to deal with the debt. You've really used so much to pay for this huge expansion of government. So we look at this as the underpinning of a healthy economy is a sustainable fiscal policy. You can't have debt that's growing faster than the economy. If you want to deal with the economy, you have to deal with the debt. You can't use all of your revenues or your spending cuts on other priorities and leave nothing left for the debt, or you haven't fixed the problem. And more broadly to that Immelt column, which I thought was really interesting, it's so unfortunate how compartmentalized our discussions and our fights in these campaigns are, when what this country needs is a comprehensive plan to grow the economy. That would look at economic growth. That would look at the very legitimate issues there are of income inequality and shared prosperity in this country. And it would look at fiscal responsibility. But it seems like candidates always take one of those issues, compartmentalize them, kind of fight against the others. We need businesses to help grow the economy and create jobs. We shouldn't be making bad guys out of people who are helping the economy. We need to think about how to make it better.
Yeah, that's very practical of you, Mike.
I hope the president and all of his the people surrounding him heard you say that, Maya, because they're going to do everything in their power to crush business between now and next January.
Feels that way.
Yeah, it's really too bad that the hostile environment that has happened between the administration and business. We've worked a lot with the business leaders to talk about the importance of fiscal reforms, and they have been so out in front in talking about what they'd be willing to do to help the problem. And I would really like to see politicians, business leaders, civic leaders working together, because these challenges kind of affect all of us, the entire economy. We shouldn't be picking bad guys.
Right.
We should be trying to fix solutions.
By the way, which is why I like the fact that Jeff Immelt came out and fought back on this, Morgan, because somebody has to basically put it out there that what GE is doing, how much taxes they're paying. Otherwise, it's just this, political football that everybody just gets on board. It's like the line, the rich don't pay their fair share. I mean,
I thought it was a brilliant op-ed, and I think, we can get into it later, but, we also have to look at defense spending, sequestration, and all of these are going to have effects, not just to the entitlements, which is a broader issue on defense spending that Donald Trump is bringing up in this campaign as it relates to NATO.
Maya, real quick.
But also economic growth. No, people aren't talking enough about how you get economic growth. And you can't just pick a number and say, I'm going to grow the economy 4% and just make that magically happen. You have to have policies that create that kind of environment.
Less than 3% growth for 10 years in this country. And we wonder why their wages aren't going up.
And we wonder why Donald Trump is so popular, Maya.
And that's exactly right, though. The growth issue is a huge one, because on the fiscal front, you cannot grow your way out of the problems, but you cannot fix the problems without growth. And what we've heard in this campaign is candidates relying on policies that make the situation worse. Huge tax cuts, huge spending increases, and then they promise growth that we're not going to be able to achieve to fix the problem. We need a realistic discussion about how to grow the economy and what we can accomplish with that.